today we're here to talk about something very important. We know already that life in a lot of ways is getting harder and harder in the North. And with the chaos created by Donald Trump, the uncertainty, the unpredictability, it's making that even more worrisome. People are worried about what it means. And Northerners have always felt like they've been ignored by Ottawa. People in the North often feel like, we don't matter because people don't give us that attention. That's wrong. The North matters. And New Democrats have always shown that we are strong voices for the North. And as Nicole pointed out, we were able to deliver these things, these important advances, but we were only able to do that because you voted for us, because Northerners sent us to Ottawa. Because you voted for us, we were able to deliver things like pharmacare, dental care, and anti-scab legislation. That's right. So today, I'm proud to be able to unveil our Northern Ontario platform, a platform to talk about how we can make life better in the North and our commitments to Northerners. So I want to start with healthcare. We know that to build a strong North, people need access to healthcare. And for a lot of people, as Nicole mentioned, you can't find a family doctor. You can't access the care you need. So what our commitment is, we're going to train Northerners to become physicians. We're going to make sure Northerners we want people to be able to stay in their communities. What better way to ensure that family physicians, that doctors stay in the North if we train Northerners to become those physicians? And we invest in regional medical schools to train those Northern physicians. So that's one of our major commitments, along with ensuring for Indigenous justice that we fully implement Jordan's principle. It's about justice and equity for Indigenous kids. We can't see a scenario where people are fighting over jurisdiction while a young kid doesn't get the care they need. We'll fully implement Jordan's principle and make sure Indigenous kids get the care. We also know that groceries, as Nicole pointed out, it's a big struggle to afford groceries in the North. And so our commitment, we've got many commitments, but one of them is we're going to fix Nutrition North. It's not working, we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Nutrition North was supposed to provide access to affordable, nutritious meals and food. It's not doing that. We're going to fix it to make sure it actually delivers that goal, that people can get nutritious meals in an affordable way. We'll fix it. We'll also impose price caps for grocery essentials on those large corporate grocery stores to bring down the price of food in the North and across this country. Another major part of our plan for the North is we need to invest in infrastructure in the North. Now, investing in this infrastructure is about equity, it's about fairness, it's also about safety and security, and it's also about economic development. Like, how can you get in and out of communities and move products around if there's not the right roads, the right infrastructure? So our commitments, we're going to twin across Canada, Trans-Canada. We're also going to twin highways 7 and 11 to make sure these communities That's going to make those highways safer. It's going to make it easier for people to get around the communities in the North. And for a lot of more isolated communities, their only real way to move products in and out is through winter roads. But with the climate change and the unpredictability around that, that season is getting shorter and shorter and more unpredictable. So these communities need all-season roads, permanent roads to be able to get in and out of those communities. And finally, another element of our plan for the North is to support the Francophone communities in the North. The North has a strong community of French-speaking folks, of Francophones who are proud that they speak French. Well, these Northerners that are Francophone need to be able to access their services in French, in both official languages. So we're going to make sure that that happens. Hear, hear. And one final piece on supporting the Francophone communities. There are very important post-secondary institutions that need federal supports as well. I'm thinking about Université de Hearst, and I'm thinking about Collège Boréal. We need to make sure that these institutions are supported and they're strong and they're real viable options for young people to continue their education. And while we talked about some of the things that we delivered because you voted for us, because Northerners voted for New Democrats, you supported New Democrats getting to Ottawa, we were able to deliver things. And one more thing I want to point out, there's a hospital, the Winnebago Hospital, that Liberals had walked away from. They weren't going to continue the program, and the renovation was at risk for being canceled. We fought back because you voted for us, and we were able to secure $1.2 billion to make that hospital a reality. That's because of you. That's because of Northerners. That's because you sent us there. That's because you voted for us that we together were able to do this. So what are the other parties saying? Well, we know that Mark Carney is talking about cuts. He's proposed $43 billion in cuts to the operating budget, which is services. And we know how that story is going to end up. It's going to impact the North. When they cut services, they're going to cut services in the North. That's less family physicians. That's less doctors, less nurses in the North. That's less of the investments we need in the critical infrastructure in the North. That's not the plan forward. And Pierre Poilievre's plan is one of cuts. He wants to cut massively. And what do those cuts mean? Well, it's going to cost Northerners. Northerners need investments in infrastructure and healthcare. And Pierre Poilievre is saying that he's going to cut those things. That's not what Northerners need. What you need is someone that's going to fight for you, not the billionaires. Someone that's going to fight for everyday people, not those at the very top. And that's what New Democrats are all about. We're here to fight for you. We know that Ottawa works best when one party doesn't have all the power. We know that Conservatives want to cut, and sadly the Liberals won't do what's necessary unless they're forced to do it. And the only way we force them to do it is when people vote for New Democrats and send us to Ottawa so we can fight for you. So that's what I ask you to do in this election. Send this great Northern team to Ottawa and we'll fight for you and deliver for you. All right, I'm going to do that again in French, and then I look forward to your questions. So
I'm very proud to be here with all our candidates. We have an incredible team of candidates. I forgot to mention the fact earlier that our Northern team is totally composed of women. And we're so proud of that. These are strong women, passionate women who will fight for you. So today, I want to talk about the fact that, yes, we know that things were already tough living in the North. Before now, people in the North felt as though they were being left behind. And that's often the case, that Ottawa ignores the realities of people living in the North. And with the chaos created by Donald Trump, that will only make things worse. So today, I'm very proud to introduce our platform for Northern Ontario. This plan, and there are a couple of points I want to share with you, involves investing more in the North to help people in the North, to ensure that we can represent the interests of people living in the North. So I want to begin by talking about health care. We know that for some people in the North, it's very difficult to access health care. They have to travel for quite a long time in order to see a physician. So we want to fix that. And the first step is to train doctors in the North to practice in the North and stay in the North. And in order to train those doctors in the North, we will invest in training for doctors in the North. That means in universities and in a regional team, so that there are places where people can receive that training. And finally, another thing I want to add is the fact that we want to fully implement the Jordan's principle to ensure there's access to services and supports for Indigenous children. Cost of living, that's a big problem in the North, and particularly food. It is so difficult to do your groceries because everything is so expensive. And the current program doesn't work, so we will fix Nutrition North so that it works for families and it will bring down the cost of groceries. And to bring down the cost of food, we're going to introduce a cap on essential food items to bring down the cost of living in the North. In the North, infrastructure is very, very important. It's a question of equity and security and safety and also economic development. We need roads to connect the communities. So our commitment is to double the number of highways and also twin highways 7 and 11. And for a number of Indigenous communities, well, they're dependent on winter roads, but with climate change, often those roads are not necessarily available. Now there is less time to be able to access them. So our commitment is to build all-season roads so that there can be connections between communities in the North all year round. And finally, there is a very strong Francophone community in the North. We are proud of that, and we will support them. That means that they must be able to access services in both official languages, and we will guarantee that that's the case. And to promote the francophonie in the North, we must also support Francophone universities and colleges, so Hearst University and Collège Boréal, and we will support them. We have given you a number of examples of how you voted for NDP members of parliament and that we delivered for you. We delivered dental care, pharmacare, and there's a specific project in the North. You had the Winnebago Hospital that needed further investment, and the Liberals said, no, we're not going to continue with that investment. We fought very, very hard for you, and we forced the government to provide $1.2 billion to renovate that facility. But all of that is thanks to you. It's thanks to the fact that you voted for the NDP, you sent NDP MPs to Ottawa, and that allowed us to deliver for you. So in future, I'm encouraging you to vote for the NDP and send strong candidates to Ottawa to defend the interests of Northerners and your communities.
Merci beaucoup. On va maintenant passer à la période de questions des journalistes. Une question et une relance. We'll now take the questions from the press. One question, one follow-up. We'll begin with Abigail Beeman, CTV.
Hi there, Mr. Singh. I spoke with an expert who believes that one of the goals of the riding restructuring in Northern Ontario was to encourage more Indigenous engagement in politics. I'm wondering if you can speak to the importance of that and tell us whether you're running any Indigenous candidates in Northern Ontario.
Well, one right behind me is Sault Marie. Indigenous candidate. And yes, we've got a number of Indigenous candidates across the country. But just let me talk a bit about this. For New Democrats, we don't just prioritize Indigenous communities during a campaign, but we meet with Indigenous communities throughout the years in between campaigns. And for us, what is fundamental is we can't defend what makes us Canadian. If we talk about how we want to fight back against the 51st state, fight back against Donald Trump, if we don't wrap ourselves in what it means to be Canadian. And what it means to be Canadian is to ensure that there's reconciliation for the first people of this land, that there's justice for the first people of this land, that there's fairness and equity for the first people of this land. And so for New Democrats, this is a fundamental part of who we are. We are always going to fight for justice for Indigenous people. We cannot have a fair country, a just country, unless the first people of this land enjoy basic human rights, fairness, and justice.
I'm also wondering if you can, what you would say to critics who say that Indigenous issues have not been enough of a focus this campaign, and why you aren't challenging your opponents to make it more of an issue.
I would say those critics are right. We have not heard from any other leaders in terms of Indigenous issues. In fact, no other leaders even do land acknowledgements. We're the only party committed to acknowledging the land that we're gathered on. At each of our press conferences, we open with a land acknowledgement. We've not seen that from Mark Carney. We've certainly not seen that from Pierre Poilievre. And it shows a lack of respect and a lack of importance of Indigenous issues, which is wrong. And so, yes, I issued this challenge today. I've raised this in Parliament, in question period. Throughout my career, I challenge the other parties, to make Indigenous issues a fundamental and important issue in this campaign, because it is fundamental and important. We can't move forward as a country unless the first people of this land have access to water, to dignified homes, to health care, to education, to the basic needs that everyone should have and that Indigenous communities have been denied for so long. So we're going to continue to fight for that.
Merci beaucoup. Prochaine question, Valérie Gamache, Radio-Canada.
Monsieur Singh,
Hello,
ce matin,
Mr.
vous
Singh.
n'avez pas parlé de gisements de minéraux critiques dans votre allocution.
No, you didn't
Vos
mention
adversaires, lorsqu'ils sont
critical
passés ici, ont
minerals in
parlé
your
d'une part d'en faire un projet
presentation,
d'intérêt national du côté de M.
or
Carney, du côté de
national
M. Poilievre,
projects,
de
as
s'assurer que ce
Mr.
projet-là,
Poilievre and
notamment le
Mr.
projet du
Carney
cercle de feu, voit le jour. Quelle est
are
votre
discussing,
position là-dessus?
such as the Ring of
Je pense
Fire.
que
What
le
is your
développement
position on this?
des minéraux critiques et les
Well,
cercles de
I
feu, c'est
think
important.
that the Ring of
Mais
Fire
on
and
ne peut
critical
pas le
minerals
faire sans
are
avoir
very
l'infrastructure nécessaire,
important, but that
sans
can't
avoir les
happen without the
investissements
necessary
nécessaires dans la communauté,
infrastructure
sans
or
avoir
investments
un
in
bon
the
système de
communities,
santé pour
without a
soigner
good
les
healthcare
gens,
system
des
to
routes
provide care to
pour
people,
connecter les
or
communautés,
highways to
et
connect the
le respect
communities,
pour les communautés
and of course
autochtones.
respect for
Donc, la
Indigenous
seule
communities.
façon qu'on peut aller devant, c'est
So
en
the
faisant
only
ça.
way we can move forward is by doing that.
Quelles conditions devraient être réunies pour que le
But
NPD
what
appuie ce
conditions
projet
would
de
need to be
cercle de feu?
present for the NDP to support the
quelques
Ring of
éléments
Fire
se sont,
project?
primordiales
Well, there are a
pour,
couple of elements that are
n'importe quel
absolutely
développement
critical when we're
dans
talking
les
about
communautés.
any kind of
D'abord,
development in
premièrement,
communities.
on doit avoir une
First of all,
garantie
there must
qu'il y
be
a
a guarantee
travail qui est collaboratif. On
that
travaille ensemble
there will
comme des
be
partenaires.
cooperative, collaborative work
Souvent
involved,
dans le passé,
working with
c'était
partners.
Ottawa qui impose des projets. Ce n'est
In
pas
the
acceptable.
past,
On
often
doit
Ottawa
avoir
has
une
imposed
approche
its
où on travaille
will,
ensemble
but
avec les communautés
what we need
autochtones.
is
Et on doit avoir aussi des garanties que
partnership
les
with the
communautés
Indigenous
autochtones
communities
sur lesquelles,
and
sur leur
ensure
terrain, où on
that
va, sur
the
leur terrain, où on va
Indigenous
avoir des
communities,
développements,
where
premièrement,
there's
ils sont
going to
d'accord,
be
mais aussi, ils vont
development,
avoir un
agree with
bénéfice
the
pour leur
project
communauté
and that
aussi.
they are going to
Ça, c'est
receive
essentiel.
benefits from that
Parce
development.
qu'ensemble,
That's
on peut créer
critical
des projets
because
comme ça.
together we can make those projects happen.
Yeah, so we absolutely believe that there's a great opportunity to develop critical minerals and the Ring of Fire, but that cannot happen unless there is the right infrastructure in place. So roads to connect communities, roads and infrastructure so that communities can actually remove the, be able to extract the minerals and be able to move them around. We also know that none of this can happen unless we work in collaboration with Indigenous communities. For too long, Ottawa has imposed these projects, and that is wrong. What we want to see happen is that these projects move forward in a way where we are in partnership with Indigenous communities, that they are also going to see shared prosperity, that they benefit from projects that happen on their land, that there's an economic benefit to those communities. So collaboration, partnership, working together, and making sure there's an economic benefit to the communities impacted, and we're talking about that today.
Thank you. Next question, Olivia Stefanovic, CBC.
Good morning, Mr. Singh. You're losing two experienced MPs in Northern Ontario, Charlie Angus and Carol Hughes, who's just behind you. What makes you think you can hold your seat count here?
Well, we know for a long time people in the North have seen what you get with a New Democrat. When you have someone like Carol Hughes and someone like Charlie Angus, you get fighters that stand up for the North, that fight for the North, and that deliver for the North. And we only were able to do that because people voted for us. The fact that the Liberals were going to move away from the Winnebago Hospital renovations, that investment, they had thrown their hands up and said, no, we're not going to go ahead. I met with the hospital folks who said, well, we're going to have to cancel contracts. We already had contractors ready to go. We had things in place that we're going to have to cancel. We fought back and we secured the investments, $1.2 billion to renovate that hospital. We made that happen. But we only could do that because people voted for us. Carol and Charlie could only fight for people in the way they did because you voted for them. So if you want to have strong voices that are going to stand up for you and deliver for the North, if you vote for New Democrats and send New Democrats to Ottawa, we'll continue that fight. Donc, on reconnaît leur travail.
Yes, we acknowledge the work that's been done, and we're very, very grateful to Charlie and our previous candidates have contributed to the North, and the reason why these people were able to fight for you is because you voted for Charlie and Carol, and they were there to defend your interests. So if you want, again, to have people who are going to fight for you, like Charlie and Carol, you have the power to do that. If you vote for New Democrat and NDP candidates and send them to Ottawa, they will be fighting for you.
And with the slowdown in the economy, how exactly would you like to see the Canadian government prepare for a possible recession?
This is a real worry on a lot of folks' minds. We're seeing that the chaos and the uncertainty created by Donald Trump and the trade war could have really significant impacts on our country. We've already seen some serious job losses, and I'm worried about those folks. I'm worried about their families. And that's why we said the number one thing we need to do immediately is to help those folks that do lose their jobs keep their homes and keep food on the table. And right now, employment insurance does not cover enough of a worker's salary to pay the bills. Maybe 40 years ago, EI was enough to cover, if you covered half of someone's salary, it could have covered the bills and groceries. It doesn't work anymore. Right now, workers are spending their entire salary just to keep the roof over their head and food on the table, and EI is not up to the task. So while Mark Carney has given a tax cut to millionaires, has had time to meet with the king in Europe when he was prime minister, or the king in the United Kingdom, he didn't have time to increase the amount that workers receive, knowing full well that workers are going to lose their jobs as a result of this trade war. So that's the first step. We got to make sure that we are supporting Canadian workers. And then right alongside that, we need to invest in our country. And so we talked about infrastructure. We got to build Canadian. We got to buy Canadian. We got to support Canadian workers. And that's what we've got to do.
Nous allons maintenant passer à la période de questions en ligne. We will now proceed to online question period with Emily, Globe and Mail.
Interesting. Yves-François Blanchet says that the Greens didn't pass the criteria for the debates based on the endorsed candidate level. They didn't have as many candidates signed up for the endorsed with Elections Canada. Do you think they should participate?
That's not something that I'm really particularly worried about. I'm in this campaign, I'm really focused on the choice that Canadians have to in this really uncertain time, to vote for New Democrats who have delivered for you, who've delivered things like pharmacare and dental care. The opportunity that Canadians have again to vote for New Democrats and send us to Ottawa to fight for you again. So I'm really focused on that choice, that in all of this uncertainty and all of this chaos, who's actually going to fight for you, and not the billionaires and not the CEOs? Who's going to stand up for everyday people? Did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, actually, the Northern Ontario School of Medicine has been working to train Northern medical workers. Are you, how would you plan on, are you planning on expanding that? If so, by how much? What's your plan?
Yeah, certainly. So yes, absolutely, we need to expand that. The idea of training, one of the things that we've seen as a challenge in northern and remote and rural communities is that, of course, there's not enough physicians there. And so one of the ways to ensure that we actually have physicians that are in the north, people, there's ways to compensate or to properly pay and to provide incentives, all are good. But one of the best ways to ensure someone stays in the north is if they're actually from the north. So training northerners to become physicians in the north is what we're proposing. And to do that, we want to expand those regional medical schools, have more ways to train workers in the north.
Thank you very much, everyone. That concludes our press conference. Ça termine notre conférence de presse.
Merci. Thanks so much. You guys were amazing, by
All
the
right,
way.
you were listening to NDP